Today on Sculpt Animation, we're going to be casting Dan's trainer in resin. To sculptanimation.com, the channel that brings you tips, tricks and news on everything stop motion. I am your host, it's Ellis. Hello and welcome to our brand new channel. And the first thing we'd like to announce is the launch of our independent stop motion zombie film, Dawn of the Dead, which is now available for you to buy online on every single device you can think of via the link below. This has also got a promo code on at the moment with 30% off. That's 8 minutes of stop motion zombie action for less than £2. And now on to our second announcement. Yes, Dawn of the Dead is returning to you in a mini-series which is currently in production right now. And that brings us on to our very first tutorial, which will be on how we cast Dan's trainer in resin. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to our zombie guru, Daz Longthorne, who's going to take you through the process of how we cast Dan's trainer in resin.
Cheers, Pete. Yeah, that's me. What I'm actually doing now is just vaselining the outer casing for the case mould of the trainer that Pete sculpted. So as you can see, I'm just vaselining the timber around the edges so we don't want any of our resin kind of sticking to it. And what you might see shortly is, if you notice in the corners of the bottom of the case mould, there's 4 little dots which I've marked for some location keys. So yeah, here we go. So what I'm actually doing here now is I'm rolling out some really thin slivers of clay just to block the seams of where the timber's joined. Again, it's just to stop resin leaking through that could go underneath the timber and get horribly sticky underneath there. Oh, and as you can see now, I'm just, we've got some little half spheres of resin and I'm just spot gluing them onto the corners. This will probably all come apparent a bit later in the videos of the reasons why we put these little location keys on. Also, as you can see, I always tend to just blob some of the super glue onto a little piece of timber and sort of decant as much as I need. Quite often find that if you just use it straight from the tube, it tends to just pour out all over, sometimes getting it on your sculpt. So I just use a little bit at a time, and I'm just vaselining over them as well now. Yeah, as you can see, bit of resin around each one, because again, it's the actual mould will be made out of the same resin as the little keys I've put in, and we don't want them to stick together. Here we go. Now, so what we're actually going to be using here is a 2-part polyurethane resin. It's quite fast setting as well, and as you notice, I decant sort of a 50-50 mix, and you can do it by weight or you can do it by volume. And I always tend to do a little bit more than I need, because I never want my mould to kind of get halfway through it and realise you've not got enough resin mixed up. So I think that's part A I've just poured into one of the cups, and you'll notice shortly I'll be pouring part B. One of them's kind of white in colour, which is usually the part A, and one of them's kind of translucent, which is usually part B. And don't forget, people, do not smoke while using this. Always use a vape. As you can see, and you just mix. It doesn't really matter which one you pour into which one. You can pour the B into the A or the A into the B, but make sure that it's thoroughly mixed. If it isn't, your moulds can tend to be a little bit soft and a bit sort of rubberized. So I'm giving it a really good mix. And if you notice, I've actually built the sides of the moulds up with some foam board. And if you look right into the corners, I've actually filled the corners as well, just to stop any seepage, because it's quite liquid, this resin, and like water, if there's a hole, it'll find it. And I also tend to pour into one corner, slowly filling the mould up and let it seep into all the detail. As you can just see now, it's just gone into the top of the tray now. Not much left of the resin, so it weren't a bad guess, that one. And if you notice, I'm just tapping the mould there, and that tends to make all the bubbles that are stuck to the surface of the sculpt float to the top. So you don't get any. See, I'm pointing to them now. I don't think you can see them, but I know Pete could see them while he was filming this. Can't you, Pete?
I can, yeah. They all came to the top.
See, there you go. So here we are now. Probably, I think we left it for about half an hour just to be on the safe side. You know, don't rush this thing, because it's took you that amount of time to get to this point. What's the point in rushing the last bit? So I'm just splitting the mould now, just with one of my tools. Taking away some tape that was round it, just to keep it all together. There's one piece. See, it all kind of really easily collapses out of and away from the resin because you've used Vaseline as a release agent. Just there you go. There's the clay inside the mould, and Pete's little armature is stuck to the timber on the other side, if you can see it, with the keys. And if you look at the top, there's the females, in other words the negatives, and there's the positive keys.
So the next process will be to pour the silicone into the resin mould along with the armature inside. That will come in the next episode, but for now we would like to leave it there. We hope you've enjoyed watching this first episode for sculptanimation.com. If you have any questions, please feel free to tweet us at sculptanimation, hashtag #AskPete for anything stop motion wise, hashtag #AskDaz for anything sculpting and moulding wise. In the meantime, please buy Dan of the Dead on the link below and tweet about it. Let everyone know that Dan of the Dead is out there. But for now, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.